Coming up in our newscast tonight. Temperatures nationwide remain at dangerous high levels. The government promises to have enough electricity ready as power demand continues to rise amid a record-breaking heat wave. Ahead of the ASEAN Regional Forum, Seoul's top diplomat continues to hold numerous meetings. The latest involve her counterparts from China, Japan, and Russia, with North Korea the central topic. The U.S. Fed leaves its key rate pat again, but some experts warn the time between now and the upcoming hike is crucial for South Korea to be prepared against any negative impact on the country's exports. NEWSCENTER begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome, I'm Daniel Che. After hitting record highs in various parts of the nation, the temperature has gone down just a bit. However, the mercury is still hovering at a dangerous level, so the people are advised to do whatever they can to avoid the heat and stay hydrated. Won Jung-hwan has our top story.
It looks like it's going to stay extremely hot in Seoul and other parts of the country. Heat wave warnings are in effect across almost the entire nation. In Seoul on Thursday, it hit 37.5 Celsius, down 2.1 degrees from the record-breaking day before, when it soared to its highest in 111 years. Forecasters say the temperature dipped because of more clouds in the sky, which reduced the amount of sunshine. According to meteorologists, high atmospheric pressure from Tibet and prolonged dryness have contributed to the extremely hot weather. And warm, dry air blown down from the eastern Tibet mountains has pushed up temperatures in the western and inland region, including the capital. The nights aren't much cooler either, with some parts of the country experiencing super tropical nights, where the temperature stays above 30 degrees Celsius all night. There were several incidents caused by the heat wave. In one incident, a KTX train traveling from Hangshin Station on Wednesday afternoon was without air conditioning for over an hour after the system stopped working in 10 train carriages.
The crowd all gathered in some carriage where the air conditioning was working. But to be honest, it was like a train carrying refugees, children crying and screaming.
According to the data from the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 2,200 people have been hospitalized with heat stroke or heat exhaustion, and 28 people have died from heat-related illnesses since mid-May. The heat wave hit after the rainy season ended on July 11th, and it's forecast to continue through early August. The number of people suffering from heat-related health conditions is expected to skyrocket this year to well over 20,000. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
And as the sizzling conditions continue naturally, people are becoming more and more dependent on air conditioning or fans. So that homes and businesses can stay cool without disruption like power outages, the nation's prime minister urged officials to make sure electricity supplies remain stable. Cha Sang-mi shares with us his remarks.
Prime Minister Lee Nak-yon, in a meeting Thursday, called on the relevant authorities to make sure electricity supplies are stable so that homes and businesses can stay cool, something that could save lives.
Last month, the government forecast this summer's maximum power demand to 88.3 million kilowatts. But the actual demand has surpassed 90 million. The Energy Ministry's forecasting model proved to be mostly precise, but the heat has been unexpectedly severe and prolonged.
The Prime Minister's Secretariat said peak power demand last month surpassed 92.4 million kilowatts, more than was expected. But he also said the government has now secured 173 million kilowatts of power capacity in preparation for demand to peak in the second and third weeks of August. And they're not letting their guard down. They've also got another 6.8 as backup. For more dependable management of the electricity supply, the Prime Minister also called for the launch of a task force consisting of civilian experts who would look out for unexpected situations and manage risks. He called on other ministries and authorities to make doubly sure that power supplies are stable because when people get back from vacation in the coming days, demand is going to surge again. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
The heat is also having a negative effect in the northern part of the peninsula. An article published in North Korea's state-run newspaper Dodong Sinmun says the regime's been experiencing the hottest days in its history since July and that it's damaged all the North's crops. It says leader Kim Jong-un ordered the North Korean people to come up with practical measures and work systematically to minimize drought. The article stressed that managing crops well is directly related to having enough food and called for an effective use of water and electricity. The unbearable heat is a serious issue not just in the peninsula. Other countries, even Scandinavia, are trying to adjust to record-breaking summer days. Oh Soo-young has the full story.
Global temperatures have reached record levels this week in major cities around the world, and experts are projecting more heat waves in the years to come. Germany recorded its hottest day of the year on Wednesday, with the eastern city of Bernburg hitting 39.5 degrees Celsius. The capital, Berlin, had its warmest daily low since 1905.
Clench your buttocks together and get on with it. There's no other way to get through it.
Meanwhile, Sweden has experienced its hottest weather in 260 years, hitting over 34 degrees. Over in Asia, Japan continues to experience sweltering conditions, and the mercury climbed to 41.1 degrees in Kumagaya last week. The daily highs remain at around 36 degrees on the island nation. Amid the prolonged heat wave, a global study led by Monash University warned that severe heat waves in the future will become more frequent and last much longer. The study predicted future heat-related deaths in some 20 countries around the world between 2031 and 2088. The researchers said that without finding a way to mitigate climate change and help people adapt to heat waves, fatality rates are likely to increase dramatically in countries around the equator, followed by Australia, Europe and the United States. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Over in Singapore, South Korea's top diplomat continues to hold bilateral talks with her counterparts on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. Our foreign affairs correspondent Lee Ji-won is in the city-state right now. She joins us on the line. Ji-won, who did Minister Kang meet with today and what were some of the main topics at the table?
Daniel, Minister Kang was going to meet with her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi this evening, but that meeting has been postponed until tomorrow due to delays in the Chinese side schedule. When they do meet, though, it's expected that they will, of course, discuss the ongoing developments on the Korean peninsula. And among the pending issues is a declaration of an end to the Korean War, where South Korea and China are key players alongside North Korea and the U.S. Minister Kang started the day's meetings with neighboring Northeast Asian countries at 5:15 p.m. local time, the first with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Unlike what many expected, they did not focus much on North Korea's denuclearization, but more on how the two Koreas and Russia can cooperate economically. The leaders of South Korea and Russia had promised in June to launch a committee to commemorate the 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties in the year 2020. Now, Minister Kang on Thursday proposed launching the team sometime this year, to which the Russian foreign minister agreed. Now, after that came Kang's meeting with her Japanese counterpart, Taro Kono. We don't yet have the specifics of their talks, but they are expected to have discussed the comfort woman issue and the 2015 agreement. The deal has stalled because the Korean people do not believe it fully reflects the demands of the victims.
And also, Ji-won, we're expecting North Korea's Foreign Minister Lee Nak-yon's arrival tomorrow. Any updates on that matter?
Daniel, North Korea's state-run Korea Central News Agency said Thursday that its Foreign Minister Lee Nak-yon has left Pyongyang to participate in the ASEAN Regional Forum, one of the major sessions at the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. The forum is slated for Saturday. It's the only multi-party regional security forum that North Korea partakes in. And while talks between the two Koreas have not yet been confirmed, the ARF would be the only session where Minister Kang will be sitting together with Lee. According to Seoul's Yonhap News Agency, Minister Lee arrived in Beijing at 11:30 in the morning and will take a midnight flight to Singapore, arriving at around 6:30 in the morning on Friday. With Pyongyang's news agency calling Lee's visit an official one, there are expectations that Lee could stay in the city-state beyond the ministerial meetings to take care of other business with the Singaporean government. The KCNA said that Lee Nak-yon will be making an official visit to Iran as well. That's all from me for now, Daniel.
All right, Jiwon, thank you for those updates. We appreciate it. Pyongyang continues to urge Seoul to break away from international sanctions to improve bilateral ties. Its state-run Nodong Sinmun criticized the U.S. more harshly than it recently has, claiming Washington is making unilateral demands related to denuclearization, that it's using maximum pressure unlike its promise at the Singapore summit, and is even trying to control the speed of positive developments between South and North. The paper stressed that sanctions are no help in improving inter-Korean relations, that Seoul should make its own judgments and act independently to keep up the reconciliatory momentum. The remains of dozens of soldiers presumed to be Americans who died in the Korean War arrived in Pearl Harbor on Wednesday local time. At a ceremony to honor their return, Vice President Mike Pence highlighted the move as a sign of tangible progress towards peace on the Korean peninsula. The U.S. military believes while most of these remains are American, some could also be troops from other countries that fought in the war. Forensic experts will start work to identify the remains before returning them to their families. But the process could take anywhere between days to decades. The handover of the 55 caskets last Friday was part of the commitment Kim Jong-un made to Trump at the June 12th summit. Just a couple of hours after the remains arrived in Hawaii, Donald Trump tweeted a thank you to his North Korean counterpart. On Thursday local time, the U.S. president wrote he was not surprised that Kim Jong-un acted to honor the promise made at their summit in Singapore. Trump also thanked the young leader for a, quote, nice letter. There were no details about whether a letter was sent with the 55 caskets. America's defense budget for 2019 passed the Senate and is sent to President Trump to be signed. The bill makes it official policy that U.S. troops cannot be withdrawn from South Korea in significant numbers as part of any bargain with Pyongyang. It also states Washington seeks the North's complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. For details, let's turn to our Kim Yo-sun.
The U.S. Senate passed a $716 billion defense bill on Wednesday with 87 votes in favor and 10 against. The National Defense Authorization Act, which passed the U.S. House of Representatives last week, will now be sent to the White House for President Trump's expected signature. The bill sets the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of North Korea as a major goal of Washington's diplomacy, noting that the North's nuclear program poses a grave threat to not only the U.S., but also the Indo-Pacific region. It also prohibits the use of the defense budget to reduce the number of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea to under 22,000, unless the defense secretary can show that such a move does not significantly undermine the security of Washington's allies in the region, and it has been fully consulted with its allies, including Seoul and Tokyo. The bill includes tough measures on China, including a ban on Beijing's participation in the Rim of the Pacific naval exercises until it stops militarizing islands in the South China Sea. The biannual joint drill is a large naval exercise that involves 26 nations to showcase their military cooperation. The legislation also requires a Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. to review whether Beijing's investment in the U.S. threatens national security while intensifying export controls on U.S. technology. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea's National Security Council members met to discuss what can be done to save a Korean man held captive over in Libya. He was kidnapped last month by an armed group that hasn't been identified yet. The session was led by the president's national security advisor, Chung Eui-yong. Also in attendance were the defense chief and the director of the National Intelligence Service. Earlier today, the top office announced President Moon Jae-in is doing everything possible to bring the Korean citizen back home safe. The man abducted with 3 of his Filipino colleagues was working on a water supply project in Libya. The NSC also took up inter-Korean issues, reviewing the progress made so far on pledges from the Panmunjom Declaration. We now shift our attention to the fate of a military intel unit that's been mired in scandal. Efforts have been underway to overhaul the DSC. A Defense Ministry task force wrapped up their months-long discussions and came up with reform proposals. Park Ji-won outlines what they are.
Speaking to reporters at Seoul's Defense Ministry Thursday afternoon, the chair of the Task Force for Defense Security Command Revamp, Jang Young-dal, said they had come up with 3 reform proposals in order to prevent any more illegal interference into domestic politics by the military intel unit. Their first reform proposal is to maintain the current command structure, yet carrying out a radical overhaul of the unit. That includes repealing all executive orders that supported the military intel unit's legal framework and entirely legislating them all to bring fundamental changes to the intel command's naming, management, and organization. The task force chair said the proposal is closer to an actual disbandment of the unit as well as a brand new start of it. The second reform proposal is to reshape the DSC into an organization affiliate to the Defense Ministry. The third and last option is to create a whole new independent government agency, and to realize this, the chair said lawmakers should further discuss on it at the Assembly.
The members of the TF think if all suggested reforms are done, the military intel unit's illegal interference on domestic politics, illegal monitoring on civilians, as well as the intel unit's demoralizing acts will be eradicated.
The chair of Seoul's Defense Ministry's advisory body said the three final proposals came after 15 rounds of meetings held since late May, when the task force was formed. The chair of the reform panel said the task force committee doesn't favor any one option over the others, yet whichever will be chosen, the report of recommendations will include a downsizing of current 4,500 members of the intel unit by more than 30%. After the task force submits its report to the nation's defense minister, Defense Chief Song Young-mo will then report to President Moon Jae-in, who will make the final decision about how to overhaul the embattled unit. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The Finance Ministry plans to make strategic investments to promote Korean industries considered crucial to the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. Kim Dong-yeon announced the government is set to inject around $27 billion until 2022 to promote the country's drone industry and 7 other core innovative sectors. The finance chief says the ministry will select additional fields that need state support so as to promote global competitiveness and reflect them in next year's budget. According to Kim, the government plans to come up with measures to revitalize the so-called platform economy and ease regulations on venture companies to boost merger and acquisition deals. The U.S. Federal Reserve is keeping its interest rates unchanged, emphasizing its economy is strong, hinting at a hike in September. When that happens, how will Seoul be affected, and what can the nation do to be best prepared for the inevitable? Our Go unit turns to some experts for their analysis.
As expected, the Fed kept its benchmark rates unchanged at a range of 1.75% to 2%, boosting expectations that it will raise rates in September. This means the Korean economy have until next month to adjust to the changes. A local expert says it's highly likely that the Bank of Korea will keep its own key interest rate unchanged later this month on August 31st.
If the Federal Reserve raised today, then the Bank of Korea should have raised another quarter percentage point, but the Federal Reserve decided to postpone until September. So I think the Bank of Korea has earned another 1 month for taking breath.
Another expert added that this extra time is important because Fed's rate hike could not only cause capital flight from Korea, but could also negatively affect the country's exports.
If the Fed raises rates, financial markets and emerging economies tend to get shaken up, as seen in the first half this year. And since Korea relies heavily on exports, it could affect Korea's real economy.
An advanced estimate of GDP for the second quarter released last Friday showed that the U.S. economy is growing at an annual rate of 4.1%, the fastest rate in nearly 4 years. The BOK kept its rate steady for the 8th straight month in July at 1.5%. At present, the U.S. benchmark rate is 0.5 percentage points higher than that of Korea's. 고륜이, Arirang News.
The Donald Trump administration fires another shot in its ongoing trade war with Beijing. It claims to be weighing the option of hiking the proposed duties on select Chinese goods all the way up to 25%. Kim Il-sung has the latest on the two giants' tariff tit-for-tat.
The Trump administration says it's looking into whether to increase the proposed tariff on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports from 10% to 25%. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said Wednesday local time that the increase in duties was ordered by President Trump and could be implemented as early as next month. In a statement, Lighthizer said the proposed higher tariff is intended to provide the administration with additional options to encourage Beijing to change its trade practices. The move to more than double the proposed tariff may inflame already heightened tensions between the world's two largest economies. China's foreign ministry on Thursday said blackmail won't work and urged the U.S. to return to rationality as it seeks to resolve the trade dispute. Last month, Washington and Beijing imposed a first round of 25% tariffs on $34 billion worth of each other's goods. The U.S. has said a second round on $16 billion in Chinese imports could be implemented soon. As tensions escalate, the dynamics are changing. President Trump and the European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker agreed last week to put their tariffs on hold while the two sides negotiate, including on the dispute over steel tariffs, which gives the U.S. more leverage to pressure China. There are also reports that representatives of U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Chinese Vice Premier Liu He are having private conversations as they too look to re-engage in negotiations. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now, smartphones have become an almost inseparable part of our lives. Along with texting and SNS, shopping appears to be the hottest activity using one's handsets. It's becoming the biggest platform for online purchases, helping to remove borders, making it even easier for foreigners to browse, click, and load to cart Korean products. Hong Yu takes a closer look into this welcome trend.
Mobile shopping is now the most active form of online shopping. Purchases made using the internet and mobile devices such as smartphones and tablet PCs represented 61.8% of all online shopping for the second quarter of 2018. That is the highest number ever since the government has begun collecting data of online shopping since January 2003. According to Statistics Korea, money used on online shopping increased by 21.5% compared to the same quarter of last year. And within that increase, money used in mobile shopping increased by 32.9%. Mobile food delivery alone made more than $800 million due to the rapid growth of mobile food delivery services by 88% compared to last year's second quarter. The increase was also reflected in the increase of foreign buyers using Korean online shopping platforms. Chinese customers once again took the lead among foreign buyers, with Japan and ASEAN bloc taking second and third places respectively. Items the foreigners were more interested in buying were cosmetics, apparels, and electric devices. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
A new rule has come into force starting today, banning the use of disposable plastic cups inside restaurants and cafes. Stores can only give customers plastic cups when they want to get their drinks to go. If a customer is given a disposable cup without having been asked, the store will be fined up to about $1,800. Random inspections by local governments will be conducted to enforce that law. It will be considered a violation also if a store doesn't have enough multiple-use cups for its size. It's vacation season. One of the most popular summer holiday destinations for Koreans is Busan. Right now, there's something special going on at the southern port city. A festival at 5 of the beaches. Expect concerts and all kinds of exciting activities over the course of 5 days. Our Kan Young-woo, armed only with his smartphone, was there for the opening day.
First launched in 1996 to promote the port city of Busan, this year's Busan Sea Festival kicked off on Wednesday night at Haeundae Beach. August has just begun and the heat waves do not appear to be going anywhere soon, but people here are having a great time and seem to have forgotten about the extreme temperatures. For the opening event, several Korean artists took the stage and water cannons and pool parties helped keep the festival goers cool.
This beach is great, the festival is great, I'm enjoying it, I feel like I'm home. Yeah, this is my first day here in South Korea and I'm enjoying it.
Taking place on Haeundae, Gwanghwaneori, Songdo, Dadaepo and Songjang beaches, this year's Busan Sea Festival has plenty of hands-on programs such as a night run, a dance party, and a water carnival that anyone can take part in. There's also a jazz concert, a DJ contest, and special performances by Korean singers.
I think it's fantastic. I've been here for 4 weeks now and coming down to the beach. It's just wonderful the way it's all organised, and yeah, it's great. I'm having a great time.
The festival runs until August 5th, so there's still plenty of time left to visit Busan and make the most of this hot summer. 간영우, Arirang News, Busan.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you'll need. Michelle, yesterday's record-breaking temperature, which continued through the night, made many people stay up and lose precious hours of sleep. What about tonight?
Well, Daniel, we will have more of such nights for the time being. They're known as tropical nights when the mercury doesn't fall below 25 degrees Celsius. But yesterday saw experienced a super tropical night, which is when the temperature doesn't fall below 30 degrees Celsius. Now, today was as hot as yesterday, so try to find a way to get a good night's sleep since the temperature won't drop below 29 degrees. A sunny morning tomorrow is expected to turn cloudy into the afternoon with similar highs as today, and Beijing and Tokyo will also be more or less the same as Busan. Now, after experiencing a tropical night, Seoul will wake up to 29 degrees Celsius, while Daegu and Gyeongju both starts to 25. The highs in most places is expected to hover around 36 and 38 degrees. Jeju Island stays relatively cooler at 33 degrees. Now, readings will gradually decline through next week, but the highs will remain in the mid-30s, which means the forecast will continue seeing heat waves and tropical nights for the time being. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us tonight. As always, thank you for watching.